Hey everyone, it's Cassie. Welcome back for another video here on my YouTube channel. Let's just jump right into the products we're using today. This is an older stamp set called Honeybees by Studio Katia. Has the most darling little bees, and I do have the matching dies to go with it. We're making bee cards. I also have a couple of Distress Oxide sprays. And I have some dies by Tonic. We have the Celebrate, Scent with Love, Congratulations, and Enjoy Today. So fun little dies. We also have some watercolor paper, and we're going to jump right in by spraying some of those Distress Oxide sprays onto my Waffle Flower Water Media Mat. Those colors are Fossilized Amber and Wild Honey. I just sprayed them right on there, and I'm taking the watercolor paper that I have, and that's like 140-pound watercolor paper, and I'm just dipping that in there. The same sort of thing could be done with your Distress Oxide pads, but with the sprays it's obviously a little bit more liquid, so it makes it a little easier, and then I don't have to refill my pads all the time. So I'm slowly collecting those Distress Oxide sprays. They are so pretty and so fun, and I'm just going to go back and forth. So I'll spray a little bit of water on there, smush my paper right into that, dry it in between, and I'm going to do that 4 times for 4 different backgrounds, and it's neat. You get a different look with each one. The next thing I want to do is some splatter. You guessed it. So I put it in my makeshift splatter box, and I've pulled out my Gansai Tambi Starry Night colors, and I've picked 2 colors. One is more of an orangey color, and then the other one is a little bit more clear. Just 1 little drop of water in there, mixed it around, and splattering that all over the front. It doesn't look like a whole lot now, but it will definitely show when I show you in the light. So I'm splattering that, then I'm doing that more clearer white one, and then I also want to bring in some distress paint. This is the black soot distress paint. So I'm putting that onto a stamp block, and then I'm just going to splatter tiny little flecks of black paint all over the background. I'm using a very tiny brush. If you wanted bigger blotches, you could add more water or use a bigger brush, and that's going to vary your dots and what the sizes are going to be. So I didn't want a lot, but I do have a decent amount on there, and then I'm going to show you what those look like after I've heat set them. And I just like those tiny little dots of black and all that sparkle that comes in with the colors that I splattered all over that. Love it. I want to bring in a little more texture, so I have pulled out a Stampers Anonymous Attic Treasures stamp set. This is a red rubber stamp set. I don't know if it's still available, but it is one of my favorites. Just great for adding texture to backgrounds. So I brought in my Distress Oxide Wild Honey ink pad, and I'm just putting that on there and stamping it in various places. I obviously don't need it to be legible. I just want to add a little bit of texture. So I'm going to keep doing that with all 4 of those backgrounds. And you notice I didn't put it on a stamp block either. This will give me a little bit more control over where I put it and how much I put down. So just adding that on all of them, and I found I wanted even more, so we're going to add a little bit more. You could add a different color, but I wanted these to be super subtle. And so that's why I chose the Wild Honey. That went well with our Fossilized Amber and our Wild Honey spray. So very cool. Take a look at that. A lot of good texture, and those backgrounds are ready to go. Our next step is to do some stamping. So I did put a scrap of Express It cardstock into my Misty, and I am inking up my images with some Memento Tuxedo black ink, my original First Love ink pad for Copic coloring. So I'm going to stamp that a few times. I ended up stamping enough bees and flowers and such that I could do all 4 of my cards. And honestly, when I don't know how many or what my layouts are really going to be like, I'll stamp a bunch of images. And if I have leftovers, I have leftovers, but oftentimes I'll add any of those extras to the insides of the cards as well. So I put down my lightest color first. I don't know if I showed you what it was, but then I'm coming in with a YR14. This is a Y35, and I'll blend that out just a little bit. And I know bees, typically their faces are black, but I really wanted those cute little faces to show, so I decided to go with the yellow. You know, each his own, right? That's the fun of stamping. You can do your own thing. And then I'll bring in a little bit more of that color just to kind of make it a little bit darker where I want the shadowing to be, and then I'm going to bring in my W's. So for the black, I'm bringing in W6, and I also have W8. I decided well, not that I decided. Usually when you're doing black, you don't want to go full strength black because then you'll lose your lines. So starting with that W, which is a warm gray, and bringing in that W8, I can give you the illusion that it is black without it being a full-blown black color. And then I'll bring in that W6 again and just blend that just ever so slightly. I do have a little bit of bleed through onto the color right below it, so I'll bring in that Y35 to push the color back. And that works well. That's the nice thing about alcohol markers, is they don't necessarily erase each other, but they can push back. I've brought in the B00 for a little bit of blue highlighting on their wings. And then for the flowers, I've got RV06 as my lightest color. And then I'm coming in with that RV09 just to add a little bit of shading to those flowers. We've got some YG25 for their stems. And I'll bring that back in later along with a darker color. But for the crown, oh, and the centers are YR14. Our crown is Y28. And then we'll bring in that YG25 for this. Typically, I think this would be a flower, but I decided to make it look like more like grass or leaves. And then we've got our YG17. The next step would be to tack down all of our matching dyes over the top of our images. I'm using a little bit of washi tape. You could use, you know, Heffy tape or something like that, but this works great. And then I'm going to run this through my little mini die cutting machine by Heffy Doodle. Y'all know I love that machine. At least having a smaller die cutting machine is super essential. And then for the sentiments that I've chosen, I've got some black cardstock cut down. I'm using my shim on these because they are fairly detailed, and I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine. I want it 3 times because I'm going to make these look a little bit more like a chipboard piece. You could stop at 1, but you know, I like to add extra work to myself. So I did cut them out 3 times, and then I'm going to use that Barely Art glue with its super amazing precision tip on all of the edges of my word celebrate. And then we'll stack these up nicely. And I'll stack them up, like I said, there's 3 of them. You stack them each up. And then I did this with 4 separate sentiments, so we did that a bunch of times, and we'll end up with all of our different sentiments. And then what I decided to do was bring in my Spectrum Noir Crystal Clear pen, and this will just add a little bit of sparkle over the top. I decided to do it beforehand, before putting it down, because distress oxides are water reactive and they will react with that. So I didn't want to do that. And then I'll add some of that shimmer also to their wings. And now we're ready to attach our sentiment down. Each of these panels is 4 inches by 5.5 inches. So that is not the full front of an A2 size card. An A2 size card would be 4¼ inches by 5.5 inches. So I'm going to have a little bit of leftover on one of the sides. So for that, I did cut down some little black strips. That's going to go on each of those 4 cards that I'm making. And I did stamp out some sentiments to go with some of those cards that I made. So this one will say Sent with Love, and then I'm going to attach down my bee with my glue. You could use foam tape, but I decided to just use the glue. He's so cute holding his little flower. And then all of our bases were cut down to 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches and scored at 4¼ inches. So this is where I'll bring in that little strip of black cardstock. I didn't cut them long enough, so there is going to be a little bit of white showing at the top, but I'll fix that. And then I will attach down my panel to the front of the card base using more of that liquid glue. And then because I have some of that white showing, I'm going to bring in my guillotine trimmer and just trim that just a hair off, just a little bit of that top off, and it's all good to go. And then with my excess bees, I'm going to add all of those to the inside. Some are going to get some sentiments, but they're all so stinking cute. All right, so let's take a look at all 4 of the cards. We've got that Sent with Love, and you can see some of the shimmer on the Sent with Love. And then we've got Enjoy Today, Happy Bee Day. So cute. This one I love, Buzzing by to say congratulations, Queen Bee. I think that'll make a fun graduation card for this year. And then we have Buzzing by to say Celebrate. So there they are. If you liked this video, I would love it if you hit the like button. Consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. Big thanks for all of the love and support that you guys give, whether it be liking and subscribing or watching commercials or even using my affiliate links. It's all appreciated. So thank you, and I will see you very soon in another video. Bye, everybody.